In this lecture, I'm going to wrap up our discussion about spectral lines and spectral type, and we're going to draw in this one the connection between spectral type and temperature. There is a very distinct connection between them. So in the last lecture, I ended by talking about the system of spectral types, which we said was an alphabetical system, and it went from the strongest lines, which were at the beginning of the alphabet A and B, to the weakest lines, which were type O at the end of the alphabet. And excuse me, I had to pause for a second there, and I'm not quite sure what sentence I was in the middle of. But in any case, we had gone through the fact that the strongest visible hydrogen lines were at the beginning of the alphabet, the weakest are at the end of the alphabet, which in this case is O. Remember and keep in mind that these are based on that H alpha line, which is the 2 to 3 transition in hydrogen. And we said in the previous lecture that that's going to come from medium temperature stars, because to have that transition, the electron needs to begin in level 2. Cool stars had it begin in level 1, so they were not in the right place, and hot stars began in level 3, so that was not the right place either. So what we can realize is that these ones that have the strongest lines are medium temperature stars. And in fact, when they used Wien's law, when they learned how to use Wien's law to figure out the temperature of a star, that is in fact what they found, that A, B's, F, and G's are all sort of medium temperature stars from about 6,000 to 10,000 degrees or so. And this is the ones where they have lots of electrons in n equals 2 that can then absorb that one particular wavelength of light and jump to the n equals 3 level, and so we get very strong lines. Now, when they studied the stars and they used Wien's law to figure out the temperature, the next thing they found was that the K and the M stars were very cool stars. So what we learned was that K and M stars have weak lines because their electron is in n equals 1. So the lines that they would have are in ultraviolet. And in fact, when we learned how to take spectra in ultraviolet in the later part of the 20th century, we could go into space and do that, we can see those lines in K and M stars. But they're, excuse me, I got interrupted again. So again, the K and the M stars have lines in the ultraviolet because their electron is in n equals 1, but those are too cool to have visible lines. And similarly with O's, O's turn out to be very, very hot stars, like 30,000, 40,000 degrees. And so their electrons start off in the n equals 3 level or even higher, so you're not going to see that 2 to 3 transition in O stars. So you're not going to have visible absorption lines. So just looking at this, rearranging these in order of temperature. These are the cool ones up here, which we made red, and the hot ones down here, which are purple. And I've drawn this yellow line in here. That's the wavelength of the H alpha line. So you can see here's an A star, and it's got a pretty strong line. B also has a moderate line. There's F and G. They have moderate lines. And you can barely see it at all in the K, the M, and the O. It's just not even there. So these ones where it's strong have lots of electrons in the n equals 2 level. Ones that are cool have electrons that are in the n equals 1. Hot ones have electrons in the n equals 3. And so they have to be in n equals 2 to have this transition happen. That's why these medium ones are where we see that line. So you can see that there's a new arrangement of the spectral types in terms of temperature, and it's not alphabetical anymore. M and K, G, F, A, and then back to B, and then jumping all the way to O. It's in a totally different order. Traditionally, when we set this up, we go from hot to cool. This is the traditional order that we list the spectral types in. Although the alphabetical one tells you about the strength of the lines, this particular order will help you remember the order of the spectral types from hot to cool. So starting with the hot and going to the cool, the hottest ones are O, followed by B, then A, then F, G, K, and M are the coolest ones. This is a tricky order to remember. O, B, A, F, G, K, M is not an easy order to remember. So lots of people want to come up with mnemonics for this. You're going to have to memorize this order. So you're probably going to want to know a mnemonic for it. The traditional one that all of the people my age learned when we were in college was, "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me." The girls in my class started to say, well, that's a little bit sexist, and we would say, "Oh, be a fine guy, kiss me." And then one of our professors was very bizarre, and he used to say, "Oh, be a fine gorilla, kiss me." We didn't really want to go there with him. Thank you very much, Professor. You can come up with your own mnemonic that you like better, but this is the order from hot to cool, and you're going to see this a lot, and it's very important that you know this order. If you know this order, you can immediately tell. If somebody tells you that you've got a K star, you immediately know that it's a cool one. If somebody says you've got a B one, that's a pretty hot star. So very important to know this order from hot to cold.